The first thing Ethan registered upon waking was a dull, throbbing pain in his head and the rough texture of burlap against his skin. He was wedged between several young women in the back of a moving vehicle, the air thick with the smell of sweat and fear. A cheap, floral dress was bunched uncomfortably around his thighs. The sight of it sent a jolt of panic through him. His hand shot down, fumbling beneath the fabric, and a wave of relief washed over him. He was still himself. Fragments of memory, not his own, slowly coalesced in his mind, the memories of the boy whose body this was. Alex Carter, the youngest son of a powerful senator, cherished and spoiled. He'd been on a cross-country trip, a brief escape before starting college. He had slipped away from his security detail with a single aide, seeking a bit of adventure. His naivety and open-handed spending had made him a target. They'd taken his money, but his face, fine-boned and androgynous, had given them another idea. He recalled one of the men suggesting that a face like that could fetch a high price if sold to the right people, and that a simple dress would be enough to complete the disguise. The realization that his new, privileged life might end in a back-alley brothel before it had even begun was terrifying. Just then, the truck shuddered to a halt. The rear doors were thrown open, flooding the dark space with harsh sunlight. A burly man began pulling the occupants out one by one. Ethan, huddled in the back, was the last to be dragged into the dusty clearing of a small, forgotten town. A crowd of locals surrounded them, their eyes scanning the group not as people, but as livestock at an auction. Comments were made about one woman's wide hips being good for childbearing, while another was dismissed as too skinny and frail for hard work. Suddenly, a wrinkled hand grabbed his arm. Ethan flinched, looking at a woman in her 50s who was examining him with shrewd eyes. Beside her stood a man, shorter than Ethan, who gave him a gap-toothed, leering smile that made his skin crawl. The words, "I'm a man," nearly burst from his lips, but a murderous glare from the burly trafficker silenced him. The woman asked for his price. $500, the trafficker declared. The woman scoffed, saying she could buy a decent used truck for not much more than that. The trafficker retorted that she wouldn't find another with a face like this one, claiming he was a city girl, delicate and unused to hardship. Ethan inwardly seethed. The cash in his wallet, far more than $500, was now in this man's pocket. The woman haggled, offering $200 to make him a wife for her son. The trafficker refused, threatening to take him to a bigger city where he could get $1,000. A desperate thought flashed through Ethan's mind. If he could just get away, find someone kind, maybe they would help him get back to his family once they knew who he was. Being sold to a remote farm was a gamble, but it was better than the alternative. He decided to take the risk. He raised his head, his expression carefully crafted to be as pitiful and alluring as possible. He scanned the faces in the crowd. Every man who met his gaze seemed momentarily captivated, a flush rising on their weathered cheeks before their expressions fell, a clear sign of empty pockets. Soon, only Ethan and a few others deemed undesirable were left. Seeing his chance while the traffickers were distracted, Ethan bolted. He ran, his legs clumsy and weak from days of inactivity and poor food. He didn't get more than 50 feet before he was tackled to the ground in front of a dilapidated cabin. The big man loomed over him, his hand raised to strike. In sheer terror, Ethan let out a wail. The sound was so sudden it made the man pause. Before the blow could land, a deep voice cut through the air, asking what was going on. The cabin door was shoved open with force, revealing a man of imposing height, a hunting bow slung over his back. His face was hard, his light-colored eyes sharp and intense as he took in the scene. The trafficker, weighing the odds, forced a greasy smile and explained that he was just delivering some help to the village, and this one was being disobedient. Ethan was hauled to his feet, tears streaming down his face at the thought of the beating that awaited him. The tall hunter's gaze swept over Ethan, his expression unreadable. He asked if the girl had been sold yet. The trafficker's eyes lit up, confirming she hadn't, adding that her fiery spirit needed a strong hand. The hunter stepped forward and pinched Ethan's cheek, his touch rough but not cruel. He asked the price. $1,000, the trafficker said, doubling the previous amount. The hunter's hand dropped, a flicker of disappointment in his eyes. Desperate, Ethan reached out and grabbed the man's fingers. They were cold and calloused. The hunter's gaze locked with his. After a long moment, the hunter's fingers closed around Ethan's, and he turned to go back inside his cabin, uttering a single word. Wait. Relief washed over Ethan so powerfully his knees felt weak. He was sold, but he was safe for now. The trafficker, grumbling about Ethan's luck, took the money and left. That evening, Ethan devoured the piece of cornbread the hunter gave him while the man, Caleb, stood outside, stripped to the waist, pouring buckets of cold water over his muscular frame. The sight stirred a strange mix of envy and resentment in Ethan. He was a man too, but he was slight and pale, easily mistaken for a woman, while Caleb was all hard lines and defined muscle. Caleb came inside, the oil lamp casting flickering shadows across the small room. His voice was gravelly when he asked if Ethan had eaten his fill. Ethan nodded meekly. The next moment, Caleb had seized both his wrists in one large hand and pushed him back onto the simple wooden cot. It was time for their wedding night, he stated plainly. The word sent a shock through Ethan. How could he have a wedding night with another man? Seeing the panic on Ethan's face, Caleb assumed he was trying to run. With a single, impatient tug, the cheap dress tore away, revealing the layers of Alex Carter's clothes underneath. Caleb frowned, reaching to tear those as well, but Ethan stopped him, his voice trembling as he pleaded that he had nothing else to wear. Caleb's gaze followed Ethan's to the ruined dress on the floor, and his frustration grew. He yanked at the layers of Alex's shirt and pants for a moment before shoving them away. Just as Ethan thought he might have given up, Caleb's wolf-like eyes met his, and he commanded him to undress himself. A blush crept up Ethan's neck. He looked up at Caleb, trying for a pleading, innocent expression, and suggested that perhaps they were moving a little too fast. The rugged hunter was unmoved by the tactic. He stated bluntly that he had paid $1,000 for a wife. When Ethan still hesitated, Caleb added that if he tore the clothes, they would be ruined, and he didn't have the money for new ones. With trembling fingers, Ethan undid the buttons of his shirt. Caleb's breathing grew heavier as the fabric fell away, revealing the smooth, pale skin beneath. Ethan knelt on the cot, utterly vulnerable, his mind racing. He was certain that the moment Caleb discovered the truth, his anger would be violent. He whispered Caleb's name, his voice soft. The man's calloused fingertips traced a line over his skin, drawing a sharp gasp from Ethan. Caleb's own voice was thick with a mix of confusion and disapproval when he asked why a woman wasn't wearing an undergarment. The question stunned Ethan. He tried to explain, to tell him the truth, but fear locked the words in his throat. In his hesitation, Caleb grabbed the waistband of his pants and pulled. Ethan's mind went blank, all pretense stripped away. He looked up, bracing for the inevitable explosion of rage. Instead, he saw only puzzlement on Caleb's face. The hunter stared at him, then muttered to himself that a woman's body was the same as a man's. He had never seen a woman's body before. Before Ethan could process this, Caleb pulled him into a rough embrace. His grip on Ethan's jaw was tight, almost painful, and tears welled in Ethan's eyes. The sight seemed to make Caleb pause. His brows furrowed as he wondered aloud how they were supposed to consummate a marriage if they were built the same. A flicker of suspicion entered his eyes, and he warned Ethan not to lie to him. The threat in his gaze was enough to make Ethan wrap his arms around Caleb's hand, his voice shaking as he insisted that it was possible. He had no idea if it was true. His only knowledge came from crude jokes shared between classmates. His gaze fell upon Caleb's powerful form. It seemed impossible. Caleb watched the whirlwind of emotions on Ethan's face before growing impatient. He pulled Ethan fully into his lap. Acting on pure instinct, Ethan lunged forward and bit down hard on Caleb's mouth. The tall man grunted in surprise. After a second, more desperate bite from Ethan, Caleb's hand clamped onto the back of his head, and he returned the kiss with a fierce, dominating pressure. They kissed for a long time, Caleb's eyes growing wild and heated, but his actions were clumsy, like a lost animal. He didn't know what to do next. His breath was hot against Ethan's ear when he rasped out a single, desperate word. Wife. Realization dawned on Ethan. If Caleb didn't know the difference between male and female bodies, he certainly wouldn't know how they were supposed to fit together. A surge of courage went through him. He reached out and pushed Caleb's shirt off his shoulders. The hunter's ears turned a brilliant shade of red, and for the first time, he looked flustered. When Ethan woke, sunlight was streaming into the cabin. The scent of frying bacon filled the air. He pushed himself up, but his arms screamed in protest, feeling heavy and useless. His lips were swollen and tender from Caleb's kisses. Caleb stood by a small table, setting down a plate of food. He wore a simple work shirt and jeans. At the sight of him, memories of the previous night flooded Ethan's mind. Caleb glanced over, his expression serious. He informed Ethan that since they were now married, he was a part of the family, and that he would work hard to provide a good life for him. Ethan was momentarily stunned, then realized Caleb truly believed they had consummated their marriage. A wave of guilt mixed with relief washed over him. He decided not to correct him for now. Once he earned Caleb's trust and was able to return to his father, he would repay the man handsomely. He could even arrange a proper wife for him. He simply nodded in agreement. Caleb's last name was Dawson. His parents had died when he was young, and he had learned to hunt and survive from an old-timer in the mountains. He looked to be in his late 20s but was only 23, just a few years older than Ethan. No wonder he was so ignorant about women. Ethan sat on the porch steps watching Caleb wash the dishes. A couple of locals passed by on the dirt road, their comments carrying on the still air. They remarked on how the hunter was spoiling his pretty new wife, not even letting her do the chores. Their gazes on Ethan were crude and possessive. The truth was, Caleb hadn't forbidden him. Ethan's arms were so sore he'd dropped the first plate he'd picked up. Caleb had simply taken over the task without a word. Hearing the men's comments, Caleb's washing paused. He shot a fierce glare in their direction, and they quickly shut up and moved on. As Caleb passed him with the clean dishes, Ethan looked up and gave him his most dazzling smile, telling him he was amazing. The tall hunter didn't respond, but Ethan saw the tips of his ears turn red again. A few days later, Caleb prepared to go hunting. Ethan saw him gathering his gear and immediately scrambled to follow. Caleb stopped him at the door, his brow furrowed. He explained that the mountain trails were rough and that Ethan's soft skin and flimsy shoes weren't suited for them. He turned to leave, but Ethan grabbed his arm. He put on his most pathetic expression, his voice cracking as he begged Caleb not to leave him alone. saying he would be scared. When that didn't seem to work, he threw himself into Caleb's arms, wrapping his own around the man's neck and squirming like a petulant child. In his wriggling, his hip brushed against something hard at Caleb's belt. Caleb's hand shot out and clamped onto his waist, his voice dropping to a low, husky that if he didn't stop, neither of them would be leaving the cabin that day. A blush crept over Ethan's face, but he pressed on, inventing a new fear. What if someone came and tried to kidnap him again while Caleb was gone? He even managed to squeeze out a few tears. A flicker of concern crossed Caleb's face. He sighed, taking Ethan's hand in his large, rough one, and warned him not to cry if he twisted an ankle. The mountain was beautiful, but after 30 minutes of hiking, the novelty wore off. Ethan's thin-soled shoes offered no protection from the rocks and roots underfoot. Caleb, however, moved with silent grace. He was an incredible marksman, felling 2 rabbits and a pheasant with perfectly placed arrows, preserving the pelts for sale. The thought of fresh meat made Ethan's mouth water. He clung to Caleb's arm, lavishing him with praise, telling him he was the most amazing person he'd ever met. A bead of sweat trickled down Caleb's temple. Suddenly, Ethan found himself pressed against the trunk of a large pine tree, the day's catch forgotten on the ground. Caleb's mouth descended on his, hungry and fierce. Just as the kiss deepened, a soft cough sounded from nearby. Caleb instantly pulled back, shielding Ethan with his body as he scanned the woods. Not far off, a rugged, middle-aged man lay bleeding on the ground. He must have been unconscious until now. Ethan grabbed Caleb's arm, his heart pounding. Caleb patted his hand reassuringly before cautiously approaching the stranger. He checked for a pulse. The man was alive. He wore civilian clothes, but his hands were calloused like a soldier's, and tucked into his belt was a wallet with a federal ID. Agent Miller. Caleb looked back at Ethan. The name on the ID belonged to a special task force. Ethan's mind raced, connecting it to a news story he'd vaguely heard before his kidnapping. A federal convoy carrying sensitive equipment had been ambushed near Hawks Peak. The president was furious and had ordered a full investigation. He asked Caleb where they were. Hawks Peak, Caleb confirmed. The man was here as part of the covert investigation. Caleb decided they couldn't take him back to the village. A stranger with a gunshot wound would attract too much attention, and word would get out. Instead, he led Ethan to a hidden cave he knew from his hunting trips. After they had settled the injured agent inside, Caleb handed Ethan a small first aid kit from a hidden stash. He told Ethan to patch him up while he went back to cover their tracks. Ethan nervously cleaned and bandaged the wound as best he could. He gave the man some water, and after a few moments, the agent's eyes fluttered open. He weakly thanked the young woman for saving his life. Ethan helped him sit up a little, telling him not to speak. He explained that his father had always taught him to respect and help federal agents, who protect the country. Moved, the agent asked for his savior's name. Ethan leaned in close, pulling back the hair that framed his face, and whispered his true identity. "My name is Ethan Carter. My father is Senator Carter." The agent's eyes widened in shock. Just then, Caleb returned. Ethan put a finger to his lips, signaling silence. It wasn't the right time to tell Caleb everything. A new, audacious idea was forming in his mind. This was his chance to make a name for himself. That night, as Caleb cooked the rabbits, Ethan sat watching him, lost in thought. He was physically weak. He couldn't solve a case like this on his own. But Caleb was strong and incredibly skilled. His simple, handmade bow required immense talent to use so effectively. Ethan saw his path forward. He told Caleb they should help the agent investigate the robbery. Caleb immediately shot down the idea. He told Ethan to stay home and forget he'd ever seen the man. When Ethan asked why, Caleb's reply was blunt. They were ordinary people. Getting involved in something like this could get them killed. Ethan pointed out that Caleb had known about the robbery from town gossip, which meant he was already interested. He had even gone back down the mountain to get blankets and medicine for the agent. Playing a hunch, Ethan suggested that Caleb secretly admired these agents, that maybe he'd once dreamed of being one himself. Caleb was silent for a long time. Finally, he gave a weary smile and ruffled Ethan's hair. He said that he had a wife now and maybe one day children. If he took a foolish risk and died, who would take care of them? The simple, heartfelt declaration stunned Ethan. To be included so completely in the future of a man he had known for only a few days was a feeling he had never experienced. A warmth spread through his chest, so intense it was almost painful. Caleb gently pushed a plate of roasted rabbit toward him and told him to eat and not to worry. That night, Caleb's kisses were tender, leaving Ethan's lips swollen and his body aching with a strange new contentment. A few days later, Caleb informed him that Agent Miller wanted to see him. The next day in the cave, the agent, still pale but recovering, formally thanked them both for saving his life. Caleb's eyes flickered with suspicion as the agent addressed Ethan with a particular deference. Ethan stepped forward and asked if Miller was planning to continue his investigation into the stolen equipment. Before Caleb could stop him, Ethan laid out his plan. He told Miller that with his injuries, it was too dangerous for him to continue alone. He proposed that he and Caleb take over, explaining that as locals, they wouldn't attract suspicion. He pointed to Caleb, boasting of his incredible skills as a tracker and marksman. Furthermore, he suggested that Miller contact his family. Senator Carter's frantic, large-scale search for his missing son would provide the perfect cover for federal agents to swarm the area without arousing the criminal's suspicions. On the way back down the mountain, lost in his triumphant scheming, Ethan's foot slipped on a loose rock. Caleb caught him, his grip firm on his arm. Ethan cried out that his ankle was twisted. Caleb sighed, knelt, and gently examined it. It wasn't broken, just sprained. He then turned his back and crouched, offering to carry him. Ethan hesitated. No one had ever carried him before. He swallowed past the lump in his throat and climbed onto Caleb's broad, warm back. The mountain path was uneven, but Caleb's steps were steady and sure. For a fleeting moment, Ethan thought that a life like this with Caleb might not be so bad. But the thought was quickly soured by the truth. Caleb had bought a wife, not a man. The deception couldn't last forever. Beads of sweat formed on Caleb's brow. Ethan reached up and gently wiped them away. Caleb's pace slowed. The sunlight filtering through the trees dappled his face. He spoke without turning his head, his voice low and devoid of question. He said that Ethan and the agent knew each other. Ethan buried his face in Caleb's back and admitted that they did, and that Miller could contact his father. Caleb's body went rigid. His voice was strained, tinged with bitterness, when he asked if Ethan's family was coming to take him home. Ethan clung to his shoulders, his own voice muffled. He said that they would come soon, and after the investigation was over, Caleb should come back with him. He promised that his father would reward him handsomely for everything he had done. Caleb said nothing for the rest of the journey. He seemed to revert to the silent, watchful man Ethan had first met. And from that day on, he never again asked to share Ethan's bed. About 2 weeks later, Ethan woke to find his father standing by his cot. The usually stoic and powerful senator was weeping openly, holding his son and lamenting the worry he had caused. As Ethan was reassuring him, he noticed his father's gaze fall upon his dress and long, unkempt hair. Just as he was about to explain, Caleb appeared in the doorway, a freshly killed deer slung over his shoulder. He stopped short, his brow furrowed. Before Ethan could mediate, his father, ever the politician, stood up and bowed formally to Caleb, thanking the brave man for rescuing his son and promising a generous reward from the Carter family. Caleb's gaze was fixed on Ethan. A humorless smirk touched his lips. He said there was no need for a reward. After all, he had bought Ethan to be his wife. Senator Carter froze, his expression a mixture of confusion and disbelief. Ethan wished the ground would swallow him whole. Later, in the main room of the cabin, the senator sat stiffly while Ethan and Caleb stood before him. After Caleb explained the situation, the senator slammed his hand on the table, his voice booming with outrage. He pointed a trembling finger at Ethan, his anger softened by a pained look at his son's slightly fuller face. He then turned to Caleb. He couldn't yell at the man who had saved his son's life. With a frustrated sigh, he declared that a relationship between two men was unnatural and unacceptable. He ordered Ethan to pack his things. They were returning to Washington. As for Caleb, he would be compensated enough to live comfortably for the rest of his life. Ethan stole a glance at Caleb, his heart twisting with anxiety. He was afraid Caleb would refuse the money, angering his father, but he was also terrified that he would accept it. His eyes met Caleb's dark, intense gaze, and in them, he saw a reflection of his own fear of being abandoned. He shivered. Suddenly, Caleb knelt before the senator. He stated that while they may not have had a formal ceremony, he and Ethan had a husband's rights, and that he had accepted Ethan as his own, man or woman. He then bowed his head to the floor 3 times. The senator, enraged, swept a pitcher of water from the table. He roared that Caleb had no idea who the Carter family was. A country hunter was no match for a senator's daughter, let alone his only son. At the word senator's son, Caleb flinched as if struck. He pressed his forehead to the floorboards and said nothing more. Ethan felt a pang of sympathy. He knelt beside Caleb and apologized for deceiving him, explaining his desperation to escape the traffickers. After a long silence, Caleb looked up, his eyes red-rimmed. He asked if Ethan was really a senator's son. Ethan confirmed it. He then asked if there was anything else he had lied about. A deep blush crept up Ethan's face as he stammered something about their wedding night. Caleb's eyes narrowed. Ethan mumbled that it wasn't how it was supposed to be between two men. Caleb's face went from confusion to angry embarrassment, a dark red flush spreading across his neck. He wasn't asking about that, he growled. Ethan confessed that his name wasn't Alex, but Ethan. Caleb just grunted, the blush deepening. From the doorway, his father called his name. Ethan sighed and started to get up, but Caleb's voice, barely a whisper, stopped him. Ethan. He turned. Caleb looked at him, his gaze clear and fiercely determined. He said that a man was good, too. That night, Ethan brought a late meal to his father's temporary study. The senator ignored him, pretending to read a briefing. Ethan set the tray down, then knelt on the floor. His father demanded to know what he was doing. Ethan looked up, his expression resolute. He told his father that his feelings for another man had no bearing on his character. The senator threw the briefing down in fury, shouting about the end of the Carter family line. Ethan argued that life was short and should be lived honestly. The senator countered by asking what a man of Caleb's background could possibly offer someone of his station. Seeing an opening, Ethan pressed his advantage, telling his father he knew he only wanted what was best for him. The senator, his anger deflating, waved a dismissive hand and told him to go. He added that he could bring his companion back to D.C. with them the next day. But Ethan said he couldn't go back yet. He explained about the injured agent and their investigation. The senator's body tensed, his eyes sharpening with a new, calculating light. Ethan confessed that he knew he wasn't a great student, but if he could help solve a major federal case, it would be a huge accomplishment. His motives, he admitted, were for both personal ambition and for the good of the country. His father studied him for a long moment, then a slow, proud smile spread across his face. He patted Ethan's shoulder, remarking that his ordeal seemed to have finally made a man out of him. With the senator's resources, the investigation moved quickly. While his father remained out of sight, his agents gathered evidence. A few days later, Caleb reported that he had learned from locals that on the night of the robbery, a group of men had descended on the convoy and disappeared within 2 hours, leaving almost no trace. His father mused that only a highly trained military or police unit could operate with such precision and efficiency. The local force was led by Sheriff Dixon, a man whose political connections in D.C. led directly to Senator Morgan, his father's longtime political rival. Morgan had been his father's deputy for years and coveted the power he held. The robbery wasn't just about the equipment. It was a political attack designed to embarrass the current administration and, by extension, Senator Carter. The plan they devised was simple. The senator returned to Washington and, with the president's approval, arranged for a second, larger convoy to be sent through the same area. When the convoy stopped to make camp at Hawks Peak, the trap was sprung. A man on horseback charged down the hill, shouting for his men to attack. As they swarmed the trucks, their blades cut into the supply bags, spilling not valuable equipment, but sand. Suddenly, the woods erupted with federal agents, surrounding the bandits. The leader, realizing he'd been tricked, tried to flee, but an arrow from Caleb's bow pierced his shoulder, sending him tumbling from his horse. Senator Carter emerged from the trees, a triumphant look on his face as he confronted the captured Sheriff Dixon and, by extension, his rival back in Washington. With the case solved and Senator Morgan disgraced, it was time to return to Washington. For his role, Ethan was given a junior position at the Department of Transportation. The president, as a personal gift, presented Caleb with a state-of-the-art compound bow, telling him that a great weapon belonged in the hands of a hero. That night, Ethan's mother pulled him aside as his father was speaking with Caleb in the study. She told him not to worry, that his father wouldn't hurt Caleb. In fact, she joked that in a real fight, Caleb would win easily. When Caleb emerged, Ethan rushed to him, asking what his father had said. Caleb simply pulled him into a fierce embrace. Ethan could tell something was wrong, but before he could ask again, Caleb's mouth was on his, silencing him with a passionate kiss. The next morning, Caleb was gone. A servant handed Ethan a necklace made from a wolf's tooth and relayed a message. Caleb had been given a recommendation to join the elite federal unit he had so admired. He couldn't write, but he wanted Ethan to have the tooth from the first wolf he ever killed, just as his own father had given his mother a similar token. He had told the servant to say that Senator Carter was right. Whether Ethan was a man or a woman, Caleb needed to be strong enough to protect him. He promised to return and give him a proper wedding. Over the next few years, Ethan threw himself into his work, steadily rising through the government ranks. Letters from Caleb would arrive sporadically. At first, they were crude drawings that Ethan struggled to decipher. Gradually, words appeared, then sentences, until finally, he could write a full letter with only a few spelling mistakes. The distance was vast. A letter took 2 months to travel between the remote training facility and Washington, D.C. 6 years passed. Ethan was now a deputy director at the Department of Justice, where he championed and passed a landmark anti-human trafficking bill. One of his first acts was to hunt down the very men who had kidnapped him, ensuring they faced the full, harsh penalty of his new law. That same year, a national crisis erupted, a prolonged standoff with a domestic terrorist group that brought the country to its knees. It took 6 long months to resolve. In the final, decisive raid, a young team leader named Caleb Dawson became a national hero, single-handedly neutralizing the threat and saving countless lives. The day the team was honored in Washington, the city was alive with celebration. Ethan stood with the president's entourage as the heroes were presented. When he saw Caleb, now in a formal uniform, the heavy bow still slung over his back, their eyes met across the crowded room. Caleb's gaze burned with a fire that even years and distance hadn't extinguished. That evening, at the White House Gala, the president praised Caleb's skill and courage. He asked the young hero if he was married. The room fell quiet. Ethan held his breath as his eyes met Caleb's again. A slow smile spread across Caleb's face. He thanked the president for his concern, but informed him that his heart was already taken. The president, intrigued, asked which family was lucky enough to have him as a suitor. Caleb looked directly at Ethan's father. "With your permission, sir," he said, his voice ringing with confidence, "I hope to marry your son, Ethan Carter." A shocked murmur went through the crowd. Before the president could respond, Senator Carter stood up. Ethan braced himself for an objection, but instead, his father declared loudly, "On the contrary, it is he who will be marrying into the Carter family." Caleb's face broke into a joyous grin. He bowed deeply to the senator, thanking his future father-in-law for his blessing. Their wedding was the talk of the town, the first of its kind in their social circle. Ethan, dressed in a sharp black tuxedo, rode a fine stallion through the streets of D.C. Beside him, equally magnificent in his own tux, was Caleb, riding a powerful horse of his own, a red silk ribbon connecting their reins. As they entered the reception, Caleb's new comrades tried to pull him away for a celebratory drink, but he shoved them off, growling that he hadn't seen his husband in years and had no time for them. Alone at last in their suite, the years of separation hung between them in a tangible silence. Finally, Caleb reached out and cupped Ethan's face, a familiar, teasing smile playing on his lips. "Wife," he murmured, "it is time for our wedding night." Ethan felt a blush creep up his neck. "I believe I married you," he retorted. "That makes you the wife." Caleb's lips captured his kiss full of the same raw power Ethan remembered, as he pushed him back onto the large, crimson bed. "Fine," Caleb whispered against his mouth, his voice a low, happy rumble. "Then I will be sure to serve my husband well."